All right, this is jpeg2RAW, show number 63, recorded on November 13th. And this tonight our guest is going to be Camilla. Camilla. God dang it. Camilla Binks. And Camilla is going to close out our fall season. This will be our last show for the fall season. And then Kathleen, Tim, and I are going to take 2 weeks off for the holidays. We'll be back in December. And I have to check the calendar on who's we have coming up, but we have some good guests coming up in December. But I think this, Kathleen, I think this has been a very good fall season, and we're going to close it out good tonight with our guest tonight. Before we get into that, I want to go over a few things, and Scott's giving me heck out in chat for messing up the name. You should get used to this now. I mess up the name all the time.
Camilla, don't take it personally. He can't get anything right.
No, I can't.
Or like the name of equipment, like it's always wrong, always.
Well, and speaking of the names of equipment, I'm just going to say however I want to say it. The Wacom tablet. Our winner Jennifer Pape. She contacted me and she has received it now, so hopefully she's using it and enjoying it. And for the next giveaway, I've got the Expo disc right here, and I can say that Expo disc. I said that right?
There you go.
So now we just need to decide how we're going to give that away. Plus, you know, we always hold the contest in our Facebook group every month, and I've had a number of people who I guess are listening either through Stitcher Radio or YouTube or whatever, wondering how do I get in on that? How do I become, join the group to join a contest each month? And it's easy. Just go to Facebook and search for jpeg2RAW, and you'll find a page and a group. You can like our page, but you want to join the group. That's where you join and do the contest each month. Last month was black and white. We had a great turnout, and our winner was Tamara Laura. Yeah, Tamara Laura, and her photo is up on the page. And she wins one of these books from Michael Clark, and we're going to send it off to Michael Clark, and he's going to sign it for us. And I have another member who sent me a book. She bought it herself, sent it to me, and I'm going to send that along with this book. And then our November winner will win another one, and I'm going to buy one myself. I'm going to send all those to Michael. He's going to sign them for us and then send them back. And then we're having a little bit of debate. I don't know if you saw that, Kathleen, in the Facebook group about the topic for this month. And no, I did not pick it because my son has started up swimming again. The swim season started. But the topic is sports. And that is a tough subject for some people. But remember, you get to interpret it how you want. It could be the picture of a ball. It could be your kid playing around in the house. Whatever that means to you. But the goal of all these was to get you out shooting in that month. So there's a debate. I don't know if you saw that in the group chat, Kat, about whether we should, for this month, say it's the best photo you took all year, or whether it's still the best photo in the month. And we did a vote.
What was the vote? What happened?
Well, it was slightly in favor of any photo in the whole year. But my feeling was it needed to be overwhelming that way to change the rule.
That was going to be my thoughts too, that you should stick with it. Just because it's a different topic that makes it more complicated for some people, I don't think we should switch the rules. It needs to be, the whole idea of the competition is to get us shooting now, not to go back and pull something that we did a long time ago. It's to keep us current. Sorry, Scott Green, go ahead and boo. That's my vote.
And I think, how about we do this as a compromise? Since part of the reason that people may be wanting to are interested in the November contest and wanting to win so much is because we're doing something special with the book. So I'm thinking that we do this, that for the I think the December contest is minimalism. And you go back and check it, but our winner for Tamara Laura is the one who gets to pick that one, and I think that's what she picked. For that month, since it's the end of the year, we're going to say that it's any photo taken during the year. So that will be the one exception month every year. How about that, Kat?
Okay.
And we'll extend it and do a third month of the winner gets this.
Okay.
So that way, if you can't do something for November, you still have a chance to win that in December. Obviously, that means I won't be able to get it back to you before Christmas. And then really, to be honest, I'm not sure about Michael's travel because you know Michael travels all over the world shooting adventure sports, so he may not even be available to sign it and get it back to us in time. So you know that may not work anyway. If that's the case, then I'll save up all of them and send them out all at one time.
Okay.
So, and I mentioned that if you wanted to be part of this, then you need to send the book to me before I send it to Michael. And I'm only going to do 5 people. So there's 4 more spots open because I'm going to have to mail these personally myself back to you. And I don't want to spend a fortune on postage right at the holidays.
Hey, I'm gonna have to step away for a second. My 4-year-old is screaming, "Mom, mom, 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 mom." I'll
Yeah,
be right back.
I didn't think that was at my house.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're waiting for Kathleen, let me go look at my notes here because I think we have a few new people. So let me just go over a couple things for our new people. You know, we do this every week, although the next 2 weeks we don't have a show. And the show is broadcast live here on our website. The show is also recorded and will be available later on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher Radio, our website, and just about anywhere else you can get a podcast. I get it on my phone using Beyond Pod, and there's a link both on our page and on the Facebook group that tells you all the different places you can get it. So if you're wondering how can I see this show later on because maybe you can't stay for the whole show or you missed the live show, you know, that's how you get it. I mentioned already the Facebook group. There's a lot of good, talented people out there who are willing to help, and it's a great place to chat and ask all kind of things. We were talking earlier, and I like to wait for Kathleen to come back on this one about backing up. You know, backing up your photos. I mean, I know we've talked about this a ton of times, but something new came out on that we want to bring back up when Kathleen comes back. Tim, as you notice, is not here tonight. He has a dance group, and we have to talk to him about that when he comes back. Get him to see if he can do some dances for us. Tim has a dance group, and one of the members of his group has passed away, so he is at that wake, I think, right now, and he most likely will not be back in time. So tonight we're without Tim, which means I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the show and do show notes again, which you know I stink at. I guess I can go into this. So my son, let me see if I can get this pulled up. Son is in a swim team, and this is we're looking here in the jpeg2RAW forums, and if you didn't know, we have some forums, but I'm like the only one to post in there. And it was my first shoot with the D700. Who's going to do the typing noises? So Rennie asks out in chat who's going to do the typing noises. Tim is getting very good at that. Muting his mic, but there won't be any typing noises tonight, most likely. Anyway, I generally have shot the swim meets using my Nikon D2X. It is my first time shooting the Nikon D700. The noise level in these are way better. I shoot in manual mode, usually around 1/640 to 1/800 because that's about all I can get per second. f2.8 with my 70-200, and it'll be anywhere from ISO 4000 to ISO 6400 is about where you have to get. And this was a decently lit gym, so next week it's going to be in a night game, so it's going to be worse. But what I found from this is one of the things I did not like on the D700 that my D2X had is at the top of the camera, the LCD at the top of the camera had where the focus point was, so I could move the focus point around without having to look through the lens. So let's say I'm shooting a freestyle swimmer swimming to my left, I would have it over that way. Then when they would turn around and come the other way, I would move it over the other way. So I'm moving my focus point around constantly, and that was easy to do in the D2X. It was a challenge to do in the D700, so it's something I got to get used to. But it is well worth it considering the much better ISO. The other thing I noticed, and I needed Kathleen here to say your name every once in a while so I don't mess it up. Camilla.
Yeah.
I said it right?
Yeah, you got it.
The other thing that what camera do you shoot with?
The 5D Mark II.
And that's full frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is my first full frame camera, and I was not ready for the lack of reach I was going to have. So before that, with my D2X, it was crop sensor, and I can go 4 lanes in and still get decent framing. With this camera, I can really only go 2 lanes in from the side and get decent framing. So with a 70-200, and there's no way I'm going to carry around my 120-300 is just too big. But just not to spend too much time on this, but you're not going to be able to read it here, but in the post, I went through a list of everything that I do to get ready to take the photos, and starting from 2 days before to when I arrive at the place, before the match, and then during the match, and what I do. And one of the funniest things that somebody said was, one of the things I do is right before the thing starts, I go to the restroom, and not to pee or anything, but because I wear a knee pad underneath my blue jeans, so that I can kneel down on the pool deck. And my mom and some other people said, why don't you just wear it on the outside? It's like, I do not want to look like a dork out there with knee pads on the outside of my jeans. So, but it works really well. You're able to get down on the gym floor. And one of the things, I don't know if you can tell in these images, like these right here, that girl, I'm actually sitting on the pool deck, and while it's wet, being down at that level of the participant really gives you a different perspective than being up high shooting down on them. I really like that.
Yeah.
What else do we have, Kathleen? I think. Oh, yes. So let's go to the real quick before we get to Camilla. Yeah. And there's somebody who I posted in a Facebook group, how are you liking a Drobo? And as soon as I did that, there was a flood of messages that came through. And one of them is, probably heard of this guy, Scott Kelby, who is, arguably one of the most famous people in the photography industry, Scott Kelby. And he has said why he's given up on Drobo. He's basically given up on his Drobo altogether. And at the time that Kathleen just got her Drobo.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Scott Kelby.
So I'm sure,
just all this cash, and then now you want to come out with that.
So I would like to point out that I didn't necessarily recommend that to you, Kathleen. But I would also say I don't not recommend it.
Right. And I went with it because this is not something I want to be dealing with every 5 years even. I didn't want to have to keep buying housing for my external hard drives. It's not something I wanted to keep up with. And in my mind, and I could be wrong, I felt like as long as the Drobo doesn't ever fail me, it could be the last time or one of the few times that I have to pay attention to what's housing my external hard drives. And then I can just concentrate on buying drives when they run out and not worry about it.
So I just want to say this, and then we can move on, is I've recommended the Mediasonic boxes with the RAID version of the Mediasonics. That's what I use. But those, the Drobo, or any of those other ones you use, none of those are a backup solution. Right. And I know we've talked about this before, and it may be confusing when I say that, but no one device. So let me say this: if Kathleen, if I told you that here's a device that was in every way perfected, it is guaranteed to last 1,000 years, that is still not a backup device, because you could bring it home, it will never fail, but then somebody could break into your house and steal it.
Right,
so
it's gone.
To have a true backup, you need 3 copies. You need the original, and I keep the original on my desktop computer, a local backup, and an off-site backup. And that's at a minimum, you need those 3. So a Drobo or a Mediasonic or whatever you've got is, as a standalone device, is not a backup solution. All the Drobo does for you is protect you from single, or in some cases double, hard drive loss. It is not a backup. You need a solution there that's going to give you 2 local copies and 1 off-site copy and be automated.
So I didn't read what Scott Kelby wrote because I didn't want to throw up. Yeah. But did he only have his Drobo and then it went dead, or did he have more forms of backup?
Scott is a very intelligent guy, and I would imagine that he didn't go into that, but I imagine that he had multiple other backups, and that was just one that failed. And I think he can get the images off of there. The problem was that because it was out of warranty, Drobo was going to require him to pay a extended contract or something like that, extended warranty contract was going to be like $300, and they eventually came down to $100. And because
Who do you think you are, Scott Kelby?
well, he is a big name, and by him
Right.
saying that, it will have an impact. The one
Right.
thing to remember is, while you have a Drobo and I have the Mediasonic, and the Mediasonic uses standard RAID, none of those can you just take the drive out, stick it into your Mac, stick it into your PC, and read it, because the
Right.
way they protect your data is they split files amongst multiple drives. And I don't want to get into
Right.
too much complication there, but you can't take a single drive out, and put it in something else and read it in many of these solutions. So what you'd have to do in the case of a Drobo is get another Drobo and stick them in there. Or in the case of my case, I'd have to get another Mediasonic and do that. So there is
Which
no.
I got such a great deal on my Drobo. It was basically what I was going to pay for the Mediasonic box. It wasn't that far off.
Right. It was you got a really good deal, and the thing is, there is no one perfect solution, and
Right.
every solution will eventually fail. That's why what you're hoping for by having 3 copies, 2 local and 1 offsite at a minimum. You can go further than that if you want. Is that you will not have a case where all 3 fail at the same time.
Right.
One of those 3 eventually will fail. And well, I guess eventually they will all fail. You just hope they're not at the same time. So anyway, that's enough of the preaching. Let's get on to our guest.
Your backup, Camilla. How do you back up your images and stuff? Do you have a system?
I do. It's not perfect because I don't have anything online, but so when I come home, I put them on my desktop, I put them on my external hard drive, and I keep them on my memory cards, and I don't delete them off my memory cards until the client has their images in their hand, and I'm no longer responsible for the images. So they're in 3 places. However, all 3 of those places are in my home. So
Right.
I'm working on getting something online too. But for now, I feel good about that. Unless there's a fire or unless I get robbed or something, I'm pretty good.
Yeah. Well, take a look at either Crash Plan or Backblaze. Both of those are pretty good.
Yeah. Totally. I know.
And they're not like crash plans. What is it, $50 for the year, and it's unlimited online storage.
And somebody else says Carbonite. And I have tested Crash Plans Unlimited. I got 2 terabyte of data up there, and it's still, they haven't said anything to me.
Pushing the limits.
Yeah.
Well, Camilla, we are so excited to have you on the site, on the show tonight. We had one of our listeners and one of our Facebook fans send me your information saying that she would love to have you on the show. And the first pictures I saw was a set of images that you did in, I think it was a lavender field.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And I just completely fell in love with them. And then, of course, went to your website and saw a whole world of awesomeness and decided right then and there that we had to have you as a guest. So thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. And that is so nice to hear that you like my work. So thank you so much for saying that about me.
Well, I'm not alone, I know, because I've been putting it on the Facebook page today and telling people to go look at your site and then just seeing what people are saying. You're very, very talented. And let's start off with how kind of you got your start in photography to where you are now. Tell us that story.
Okay. And I hope I don't bore you with it because it's not like I don't have a tearjerker story or anything all of them. But it was lucky for me that I decided to start at a really good time. It was about 8 years ago, right after I got married. I was just working in public relations for a while, and then I was working at a bank, and I was just bored. I was just super bored. And I would do the thing, we all do at our jobs when we get bored, you just go online, and I was just always on wedding photographers' websites, and I was just all the time, I was just so drawn to wedding photography, just my whole life. I've loved it. And at the time, everyone, I'm going to get ready for all of you to roll your eyes at me, because I'm going to say, at the time I was watching a whole lot of Oprah, and I love Oprah, and my husband makes so much fun of me for that. Well, I do. I love Oprah, and she's like, Oprah, she's all about like, live your passion, follow your dreams, and like, what would you do if you weren't afraid of failing? What would you do? And I was like, Oprah, I'm going to do this. So what I did right around that time, she just encouraged me. She spoke through the TV to me and encouraged me to do what I loved. And that was just obviously what I loved because I spent all my time researching it. And so I went out and I bought some gear. So I'm not somebody that went to school and had a lot of education when I started. So I'm one of those that just made a lot of mistakes at first, bought a lot of the wrong gear because I didn't know what I was doing and kind of wasted a lot of money at the beginning on that stuff. But then I learned, and 8 years later, I can say that I'm really happy with where I am right now. So that's kind of my little story.
That's awesome. Now, I saw on your website that you shoot Canon. Is that correct?
I do, yes.
Okay. And I was looking at some of your work. Do you have a lens baby camera, or have you rented one? Do you have a tilt shift?
I don't have a lens baby or a tilt shift.
I wish I pulled that picture. I'll have to find it and post it on our page.
I know what picture you're talking about because I saw that you commented on Facebook on a picture and I pulled it.
Yes. Okay, yes.
One of the ones in the lavender field where my cute girl was laying down, and I think you were talking about because the compression on the edges, it looked very bad.
Yes.
I shot it with a 70 to 200, and I like to always have it zoomed into 200, so there's a lot of compression. And so it kind of like, if there's trees or branches or anything, it just kind of makes it look like it's kind of curving around, kind of like a lens baby, but it
really does.
My regular
Okay, very cool.
That's why I love it. I love that lens.
Is it in the group that you sent me?
No, I don't think that. I should have put it in, but no, I don't think it's in there. Sorry.
Okay. We can
pull up the blog.
Would you after the show tonight, would you add that picture like on our Facebook group with your watermark on it so people can see? Because I think that's really interesting information to technically know about, is that with a lens like that, if you're zooming it all the way in, it's going to give you that, it's like a round wispiness is what it is.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
I can try and find it here. Can you describe it again, Kathleen?
It's a blonde girl laying down in a field of lavender.
Yes.
All right, well, you guys keep talking and I will be searching for it.
Okay. So your post-processing has, I don't know, it's really funny to me because I've been saying for so long how I've been striving for consistency. And your work is only consistently good. But it's not that you do the same thing every time, which I think is really cool. So like some of your images have a really dusky haziness to them where it looks like you've pulled up the shadows quite a bit. And other ones are just clean and crisp and kind of straightforward. So talk to us a little bit about your post-processing style and how you feel like you've come up with what you like.
Okay. Well, and I may not be consistent from shoot to shoot with, some might have a haze in one shoot and some might not, but I try to be really consistent within the shoot. So I try to have, like with one shoot, with one blog post where some are hazy and some are this and some are that and some are that. That's one thing, and I know that works for some people. It just doesn't really work for me. So at least in the shoot, they're consistent. But no, I just feel like I'm all about the mood of an image. So if it's, for example, the ones that I do at night are going to have a little bit more of that bluish haze because I feel like it adds that like nighttime kind of something to it, you know?
Right.
Special moodiness, or so it kind of really depends on what time of day I was shooting and in what kind of light. So I just kind of take the light that I had and the mood that was already there, and then I bump it up with my editing. So it just starts out with what I had in camera.
Do you do most of your editing in Photoshop and Lightroom? What's your preference?
I quit Lightroom. I just quit it. I just don't. So I do everything in Photoshop. I sort in Brit. I don't edit every single picture, but the ones that I do edit are just in Photoshop.
Okay, cool.
Sort them. Yeah.
So do you like find yourself doing a lot of like curves and levels, or are you an actions kind of girl?
I make my own actions. But No. For most of the ones that go on the blog, I pull up. I don't do curves as much as levels. I do mostly levels. Dodge burning. Yeah. Yeah. So, but not
Have
a
you ever
lot.
tried selling any of your actions for other photographers?
No, because there's not like I make my own actions for every shoot. I make new actions for that particular shoot, and then I erase them. I just keep an action open called current action, and I write it for a few images or for a session, and then I erase it and I make a new one. And so it's not like I have actions that I feel like work for every shoot, and so I wouldn't want to sell them if I didn't think they were great and risk people misusing them when they don't look good, you know.
I like what you say about how you edit for the mood, because I do very much the same thing, where if it's a more of a duskier image, the mood of it, I want to make it look even more dusky, and if it's a bright and cheery, then you want it to kind of pop and look that way. And I think that, you know, a lot of times when you can purchase an image, if you don't know what its intent was, and I purchased one of your moody images and then I use it on a bright and cheery picture, it's going to look muddled. It's not going to look the way it was intended. So I totally get that. Talk to us about your locations. I mean, we're not in Utah, obviously, we're in Georgia, but they look so diverse. And do you reuse a lot of your same spaces, or are you always finding new places?
I use a lot of the same spaces, but they look so different in different seasons. And some of them, because it's winter, they're kind of large. So there's different, you know, there's different areas. I try not to take, if I go to a hillside, for example, I try not to go by the same patch of trees with everyone every time. I try to go on to different places on the hillside. So, but Utah's pretty great that we do have a lot of different, you know, there's urban, there's big cities, and there's mountains, and then there's the lake, and then there's a lot of different things. But I think because I shoot with my 70 to 200 at 200 almost all of the time, you're seeing just such a tiny, tiny portion of the area that I'm shooting in, that you're not seeing like the big like horizon and like everything. So you kind of can't really tell where I am. And so I could shoot.
And with you doing portrait work, that makes it easier too. With you doing mainly portrait work, that makes it easier too.
Yeah, it does. So I could be in a spot and I could do a whole shoot right here, and then I could just move over 5 feet and it looks like a totally different spot, you know?
Right. What about your styling and stuff? Do you style all of your sessions?
It depends on the client. Some for play sessions, some people email me and they have no idea and they want me to take control, and so I do, and I give them, and I find out about them, because I don't want it to just be something that has nothing to do with them. So I find out what's special about them, and then we plan something that kind of tells their story a little bit in a more magical, with more fantasy, just kind of kicked up a notch. But some people come to me and they have like exact ideas and they know exactly what they want to do, and so I just help them. You know, if they need help shopping with clothes, I can do that. If they need recommendations for hair and makeup, I do that. I help find the location. But yeah, so it just depends. A lot of the fun play sessions that you see, they're actually mentoring sessions that I do, and those 95% of the time I put those together.
Kathleen,
it's funny. To be creative. It's so great. Such a good outlet.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
Is this the image I have pulled up here in chat now?
Yeah, that's the one.
Why can't I
love
it. In chat? It's just frozen on mic.
You may have to refresh or something if you're not seeing the video. Okay. Just watch out for the sound may come back on you.
Not seeing the video.
I see it now. Oh, now there's a commercial.
Start with the simple idea.
I'm sorry.
There may be a mute button underneath the video that's playing. You know, Kat, I think what has aided this one and given it that look is the fact that there is what do you call these, the plants that are here?
Lavender.
The lavender plants are close up to you and they're blurred out because of the the f-stop you're using, and it gives that that look around the person, because the close-up lavender is blurred out.
But
You know
it
what I'm talking about?
You can almost like see though like a ring,
yes.
which is
Yeah.
the compression.
Right. It does that. So even if there would have been like a bunch of big trees that weren't up close that were behind her in the back, it would kind of make the trees look like they were curving around her.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love it too.
Yeah,
So it's funny
gorgeous.
because when I found you, Camilla, I've never had any training for my photography either, and I've always wanted to take a workshop, and I specialize in newborns and children, and you don't do that. But for some reason, I was so drawn to your style of how you shoot that a lot of the things that I was looking at, I was like, I could use very similar techniques and put a newborn there, and it would be a marriage of the two. Versus I was a little nervous that if I were to ever go to a newborn workshop, which I'm not completely against yet, that I might just take on exactly what they're doing and then come back and kind of lose myself. And so it interested me to come to somebody who doesn't even do what I do at all, to be able to learn your style and then to take what I can and bring it back and kind of merge it into what I do. And I've never felt that way about another photographer. So you were special for me.
Thank you.
So do you require your clients for your play sessions to do hair and makeup, or do you let them do it if they want to or not?
I don't require it, no, but I highly recommend it. If it can be in their budget, then I recommend that they have someone do it. I'm really lucky in that I get a lot of clients that have such great style, and some of them went to beauty school, and so then in that case they just, they take over. They can do it just as good as a makeup artist. But if not, then yes, I just highly recommend it.
Awesome. I know, so you're styling the sessions, you'll even go shopping with people and help them pick out what to wear for the sessions?
Sometimes I do. If they really, really, really need the help, I will. If not, I just send a mood board that I put together. I just get a couple images from the web of clothing and a location that I feel fits and different images, and I put them together in a collage and I send them to that. And that's really helpful for people, just to kind of, that way they can kind of copy what I put in there as best as they can, and helps them get it. So yeah.
I really love how you came up with the play session idea, and the play squared, really fun, which is the same as a play session. You're just bringing a friend. Because there's really, there's engagement sessions, there's wedding sessions, and there's boudoir, but there's not that niche where you can just be who you are without having to be in a boudoir session and still feel beautiful. And so that's exactly what your play sessions do. It gives women a chance basically to dress up and be their best version of themselves without having to strip down, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. And sometimes we need to get over the mindset that we need like some big huge occasion to go get pictures taken. Like we need a wedding to photograph ourselves, or we need, I don't know. I feel sometimes still you get some people that we put up a picture online, and you get some people still that say, oh, what was this for? But it doesn't need to be for anything. It needs to be because it's been a long time since you've had a photo, and because you need something that's fun and you want to feel good. And so I hope that the people can start.
So much fun.
Yeah, so much fun. Yes.
It is. I mean, I still like to play dress up whenever I get the opportunity. We're going on a cruise and they're like, there's going to be a captain's dinner. I'm like, where's my prom dress? I'm 33. Bring out the prom dress.
Wait a second.
Take a picture, right?
Are you going to seriously wear your prom dress on the cruise?
No.
When are you going to?
I'm just saying, as girls, we're always looking for an occasion to be able to get dressed up and feel good about ourselves.
Have you put in for a vacation?
I already took my cruise.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Remember we talked about how cheap photography was?
Yeah, speaking of that, we all did a vote before you came on, and we all agreed you have to do something for this show, Kathleen. And that
Right,
is
what is
you have to demonstrate the Gangnam Style dance.
that? No.
All right, back to the regular show.
Not gonna happen.
That'll be Tim next week. Join in 2 weeks. Join us in 2 weeks when Tim does that. All right.
So, I'm looking at your work and I'm noticing that your clients, they look really relaxed, like the couples are really snuggling up to one another. Sometimes it looks a little steamy. Your girls always look kind of sassy to me. How do you encourage your models? How are you telling them to pose? What are you telling them to think about? Give us some examples of what it would feel like if you were telling Mike how to pose for a photo shoot.
Well, some couples are just awesome and they're not shy at all, but that's not most of them. Most of them are shy and they are a little timid. And no matter what I do, no matter how much I make a fool out of myself, the first half an hour of the shoot is going to be, while they're getting to know me, is going to be a little rough. And we usually have to throw out those images because they're just getting used to me. But by the end, I've embarrassed myself so much in front of them and like said such stupid things and made such ugly faces in front of them that they're just pretty relaxed, even the guys. And I don't ever stop talking. I am such a girl in that I love to gab all the time, and so I'm just talking, and so it's almost like you don't have time to be embarrassed. You're just, I don't know, your mind's just always going. But no, especially with women, mirroring, I'm not embarrassed when I tell them I want a flirty look. I do the flirty look for them so they can see it on my face, and they usually they're embarrassed for a second, but then they know exactly what I'm talking about. And if their mouth, I don't settle until it's perfect. If their mouth is like doing something weird, I don't hurt their feelings, and I find a way to tell them that their mouth is doing something weird, and I have them relax their mouth, and I have them do it again, and I keep mirroring and working every part of their face until it's perfect. There's no
How long do your sessions usually last?
Depends on the session and depends on the time of year, because it gets so cold here in the winter that we don't last that long outside. But usually engagement sessions are like 90 minutes, maybe up to 2 hours. Yeah.
And I noticed some of your shots are in public places. Like there was a laundromat one that we went by just a minute ago. Some people like to do it in isolated places where they're not going to have distractions of other people around them or anything like that. How do you deal with, was that laundromat open and being used at the time?
Oh yeah, there were some people in the back staring at us. But with the 70 to 200, you can kind of crop them out,
Yeah.
Okay. And like I said, I'm nice to my clients and I'm bubbly, and I try not to make them feel bad or anything, but I am kind of pushy and I kind of bark orders a little bit. I make myself sound worse than I am. Hopefully it doesn't sound like I'm barking orders, but if they're getting distracted, I say, focus, and they do, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. They trust you. They've trusted you, and they obviously know that you know what you're doing, or they wouldn't have hired you. And so I don't think it would probably come across as bossy, but like, let's get this ball rolling.
I think that maybe you guys are both pros and I'm not, but I would think that that's part of what the photographer needs to do is take charge of the situation without being a jerk about it. But whether you're in a wedding photographer like some of our people out in chat, or like Kathleen and Newborn, or whatever, to some degree you got to take charge and make sure things progresses, or else you'll be there forever and not get the shots you want, right?
Right. Especially at weddings, Camilla, I'm sure. I mean, you have to be the one that stands up and says, all right, I want everybody pay attention. You people here, you people here, you people here. Let's get it together and let's get it going. When you're doing those group shots, you have to have that firm foot.
Right.
Well, and as I'm looking at your shots, Camilla, at the end, the client is going to see the results. And if you don't take charge to get the results you want, they're not going to get what they really want. And I'm sure that at the end, even if they felt you were a little bossy, even when they see those photos, it's all worth it.
Right. I just think if it were the other way around and I just try to be, super nice and not do what I needed to do, they might like me for that hour or two. They might love me, but then they'll see their pictures and they might kind of hate me forever. Instead of, well, they might hate me. And I'm saying they might hate me. They usually don't. We usually get along really well and are best friends forever. But they might think I'm a little bossy for an hour or 2 hours. But then once they see the pictures for the rest of their life, they will love me.
Absolutely.
So I would rather have the rest of the life rather than, or the final impression rather than just that.
Right, because that whatever the judgment is during the shoot is a very short period of time. The images they're left with are going to be for a long time.
Exactly.
And so shooting in those public places, did you, from day one, were you comfortable doing that, or was that something you know, because some people may be a little shy and have to get past shooting in public and dealing with other people being around. Was that something that was easy for you for the get-go?
It was easy. Yeah, that was easy for me. Like with random people in public places, yes. I did struggle with taking control of the groups at weddings and kind of speaking up and barking those orders. That was hard for me at first for 2 or so years, but then I got over it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Did I throw you off track, Kathleen?
Are asking us for some either post-processing tips. One thing that you always like to do with your images. How about that?
So lighting is my favorite thing, and I try to make sure that I always get the best, awesome lighting in camera. I like dramatic lighting rather than flat lighting. I'd rather shoot at 2 p.m. on a sunny day rather than like the overcast day that most people like. I just like that, those colors. And so I get those in camera, and then I make them even more dramatic in Photoshop. So one thing that I always do with dodging and burning, you can either use the dodge tool and the burn tool, or you can use an action like Totally Rad's Yin Yang, or anything that does like a light and a dark layer, and then you brush on the light and you brush on the dark. But like I said, if you don't have that, you can just do dodge and burn. But I always, where I already got great highlights in camera, I make those even brighter. And where I got like nice shadows, I make those even darker. So instead of just like dragging up a contrast, I selectively paint on light and dark to every image where I want it. So
awesome. That's a good one. I like it. Do you do any kind of split toning in your images ever?
No.
Just leave them as is. If you had to pick a favorite, this is going to be hard for you. Would you rather do all weddings or all play sessions?
Oh, that is really hard. Oh, that's so hard. All play sessions. If I had,
because you get to be super creative.
Yes. Like if I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, and I'm not far from this right now, but I would probably do 80% play sessions, 20% wedding. Like I just need one wedding here and there to like keep that, you know, going for me.
Right.
But they're a big deal, and they tire you out like nobody's business, and it's a lot of work. Wow.
What made you decide not to do families and babies? Because you're a mom, and a lot of people's moment for families and babies comes when they have their own kids. What made you decide, no, I'm still feeling the weddings?
Yes, I love babies and children so much. I'm like obsessed. Like in my church that I go to, I've been teaching little kids there for many years straight, and they keep wanting to move me to be with adults and give me a break from the kids, and I don't want to. It's not a break. Like it's what I want, is to be with the kids. I love them. So I hope people don't think that I don't love kids so much. But there's a lot of reasons why I chose not to do that. One, I feel like babies, especially, and you know, because you do them, there's so much stuff with babies. Like you can't just have a baby and just lay it on the grass. Like you need like all kinds of props and all, you know, the sound machines, and you need it to be hot, and you need this and that. And you can't have everything to do everything really well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one reason. And then another reason is because like I was saying with the posing with women, I like to be able, like if their lip's not perfect, I'm going to fix it. Like if the light is an inch off on their face, I'm going to move them, you know, I'm going to mold them like clay in my hands. And you can't do that with children. With children, you try to be funny and you get what you get, or at least that's what I think people do with children. I don't know, because I don't do children anymore. It's not the same. I can't take my time and make it perfect, and
Mhm.
it bothers me if things aren't perfect. And so, yeah, I let
You can't you
I
can't
don't
boss that infant around, huh? You can't boss the infant around.
can't what? I'm sorry.
Boss
Oh,
the infant
boss.
around.
I know, no, you can't. You can't, unfortunately. So, yeah.
That makes sense.
Do you have something on your photography bucket list that you would love to do?
Yes, I have a lot of things. I have an idea book, actually in email. I email myself things that I want to do, and I keep
Oh,
it in
that's smart.
yeah, so I don't forget. My email inbox is my to-do list. So things that I keep in my inbox are the things that I need to do. And so I always have that email in there. So it always reminds me, I need to do this shoot. I need to do this shoot. So, but yeah, there's a lot of things in there. A lot of them are very, like, if it's something that's only around for 1 week of the year, like a carnival or like a certain thing, and I miss my opportunity, then I have to wait a whole another year to do it, and it kills me. So I try to do it when I have the chance, but I can't always.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about photographers that you feel like you've looked up to, or people who have encouraged you along your journey?
With weddings, my favorite wedding photographer is Jerry, and I don't even know how to pronounce his last name right. I'm just going to say Jerry Guionis, but that might not be how you pronounce his last name. Do you know who that is, Kathleen? Or Mike?
No, I've never heard of that.
Me neither.
He's in like Australia, I think, and he always wins like Photographer of the Year in Australia, and he speaks at WPPI. I've never been to WPPI to hear him, but I just found him online one day years ago, and it's just dreamy. You should check him out. JerryGuionis.com. So good.
Awesome.
I'll check them out. Okay, now,
And then your play sessions like resemble more like a commercial look, or maybe I don't know. I mean, it's portraiture, obviously, but I don't know if I found anybody else who does anything like play sessions.
Well, yeah, and I don't want them to just be like regular. I want them to feel like models in a magazine, because every time we go to Walmart and Target and every store, we have to look at those dang magazines. Those dang magazines with like these women that had like 50 people working on them, and it's their job, beautiful, and they have this great lighting, and we have to look at those dang pictures. And I feel like it would make everyone feel a little bit better if they at least had one picture tucked in their pocket where they had that same and that same kind of cool experience, and knew that if they had
if I had 50 people following me around all the time, I could look like that too.
everyone if they could. So that's kind of my way to help women.
Awesome. Looking at some of your images, it kind of made me wonder, do you ever play like music at your sessions to kind of help your clients loosen up, or have you ever done that, played music at your sessions?
I have a couple times, but just on the speaker on my phone, so it's not like super loud. Sometimes I give it to my clients and I want to put it in their pocket. But honestly, I usually end up turning it off after a little while, because it ends up like distracting and not helping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really.
Okay, so obviously you said that with you being self-taught, you made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and then you started to learn through your mistakes. Tell us about like a pivotal point in your career where you felt like things were starting to click for you that would be helpful to our listeners.
Well, that's a hard question.
Did you start off shooting in manual right away?
No, I didn't. I did probably a full year of shooting in automatic, because like I said, I had no idea and now 8 years later, like everyone has a digital camera. Like the brothers at the wedding and the dad and the grandpa all have the same 5D Mark II and 70-200 that I'm shooting the wedding with. Everyone has it. And so there's so much stuff online to learn. But 8 years ago, I mean, there was stuff, but a lot less than there is now. And so it was hard for me. So it took me a full year until I finally understood shooting in manual. So yeah, it was hard at the beginning. Like I could only shoot when on really bright sunny days, in the shade, otherwise my flash would pop up, and I didn't know why it was popping up, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so once I finally learned how to take control of my camera in every single setting and how to set my own white balance and how to do everything, I just got that confidence. I got that confidence that I could do anything. And that's when I started passing that along in my sessions to my clients, and they started feeling that I was really confident. One pivotal point I would say too was when I learned how to use my off-camera flash, because now I know I have that no matter what time of day, if I have somebody call me and they have to shoot at noon for some reason, or if it's a wedding, and a lot of times we have to do portraits at noon, that I can shoot in any kind of lighting, and if I need to bring in a light, I can bring in a light. Like, nothing's gonna stop me. And so that just makes you feel so confident, you know?
Yeah, I think there's certainly something to be said about learning the spectrum of how to light subjects when it comes from natural all the way to studio light or off-camera flash. Like, knowing all of it gives you so much more, ammo, basically, during your, because like I know that for a long time, like I would say I'm a natural light photographer because I didn't understand anything else that was any different, and it sounded cool, right? But now I know that I need to be able to pull out all the stops, whether that natural light is available to me or not. And so learning the whole spectrum of lighting is really, it's more important than just being strong at just one thing. Yeah. So I think that would definitely be a pivotal point for you too.
I think all of us as photographers know how important light is, but I think maybe sometimes we are either intimidated by, you know, I am to some degree too, intimidated by or underestimate the importance of off-camera you know, lighting. And you look at like what Scott Green is doing, what Camilla is doing here. I mean, the lighting is just is so important, and being able to use off-camera flash, it really adds to what you can do.
Right. I think especially with weddings, shooting receptions, and reception halls have like crazy lighting, and it's such a, I know that a lot of photographers feel this way because I see them on Facebook in the forums, and I just, it just brings me back to the way that I used to feel when I would get booked for a job, and you worry, what's that lighting going to be like? Because if you're bouncing your flash, what if it's like they're red walls and there's going to be a red cast on everybody? What if like there's really high ceilings and I have nothing to bounce off of? I just have to shoot it straight at them, and you just like have this worry all the time of what you're going to get. And that sucks to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
It really sucks. Once you can get rid of that, you just take so much stress out of your job.
And is it just practice that gets you past that, or did you do anything to help you speed that up, you know, speed that along?
Practice, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody, so do you feel like that would be something that we could tell, like, if you were talking to a new photographer right now, like, what would be one piece of advice that you give to them to help kind of push their career to the next level?
Just, if there's anything, if you have any of those feelings that I'm talking about, any situations that you're constantly being put in that make you nervous, you need to stop, and you need to take however long you need to take to combat that problem and figure it out. Stop showing up to weddings or portrait sessions or whatever it is that you do with some kind of fear because you don't know how something works or how to do something. Just stop and figure it out, because you don't deserve to be stressed about things like that. Like, you need to be happy. So that's the only way you're going to do that.
Well, and let's say worst case scenario, you mess it up. Like, it's not good to get a bad reputation out there when you're trying to get your foot in the door for photography. So it's better just to stop and learn how to do it right than to put out something that you're not proud of, or that could hurt your career later, I guess, you know?
Right. So if you're trying to learn how to do something new, don't practice it on your big wedding client, but practice it on, you know, your friend, and practice it a lot on her so you're confident. Then do it on your big wedding client, but do it.
Yeah.
Yay. Yeah.
Well, we got a few questions out in chat, so let me hit those up for just a second here. In your play sessions, I think you mentioned it's like it could be 90 minutes or so for a play session, right? How many images do you normally take during a play session, or rough guess?
150 maybe.
Around the 150 range.
But I don't give 150. I only give clients, depending on the session, 20, 30, 40 maybe tops edits. So.
Okay. Have you ever had any weird requests during a shoot?
Requests?
Yeah, that you could share.
Like, oh, during a shoot, like they want to do a weird pose or something? What do you mean?
Yeah, well, that's all it says. Is have you ever had a weird request from someone during a shoot?
Not really. Maybe in the beginning I used to get like silly requests, not like weird requests, but like they want to do like something that's not really my style, like jump in,
Well, maybe we can expand on that question a little bit. Do you ever get requests from a client that you just know as a photographer that's not going to work?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. And do you just tell them, hey, that's not going to work, let's go do this, or do you humor them and let you get that image and just move on?
It depends. Sometimes, like, I try to be super nice, but I don't like to shoot it if I don't like to waste my time. And so I'll usually tell them, oh, that's such a great idea. That's so awesome. That would be so awesome. Yeah, let me do this one over here that I wanted to do before I forget, and then we'll go do that one. And then I like usually forget about that other one. So that's usually what happens.
Just distract.
Because in the end, I think a lot of, especially beginning photographers, they get requests from their clients that is outside of their styles, outside of what they feel comfortable with, or outside of what they want to do, and it's a struggle for them as to, do I upset the client and do something I don't want to do? And I'm not talking ethical. I'm talking just maybe in a photography standpoint. Do something I don't want to do, or do I stick to what I know is going to work, and what I want to do? And sometimes that Gary is gray. It's not black and white.
Right. I think if it's the beginning and you're taking those clients that aren't your ideal clients because you're starting out, you need practice and you need to make money. You do. You can't always take the perfect jobs. You got to make your clients happy. If that's what they really want and that's what their style and that's what they're after, you got to take that picture for them. But that doesn't mean you're only taking safe pictures. Like, do the ones that they want, but then do something daring for you sometime in the shoot. At least 10 or 20% of them, make them for you. And then make sure that you're giving them the ones that they want, but you're only posting online the ones that showcase you, not what they wanted. Mm-hmm. So in the future, you're only getting the clients that you want.
Yeah, and Scott had a great comment out in chat. You may take some. I'm paraphrasing or adding some words to what he said there. But what I imagine he's saying is he may take some that are outside of his normal style, but he's only going to display the ones that are his style on his site.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I know for me, a lot of it was the newborn babies with the bows bigger than their head. And early in my career, that's just what the parents would show up with, and I didn't want to offend anybody, and so I just used them, and then they were on my website, and then more people brought them. And I had this one session for the longest time where it was a little girl in a brightly colored tutu, and then after that, it's like every parent was requesting it, and it wasn't even necessarily something that I loved. And so I finally took them off my site, and then just ordered the teeny tiny small little flowers that I like to use in the baby's hair. And then when parents ask me, is there anything I can bring? I say, nope, I've got everything. Everything you need, I have it. And if they're like, well, are there any cute little hats you want me to get? Sometimes I will go onto Etsy and find the one and send them a link. And I say, yeah, you can get this one. And they'll buy it and bring it to the session. And so it's just taking confidence in your own skills and what you have, and just putting it out there, because they're asking you, do you think this will look good if we do this and this and this? It might. We can try it, and if it doesn't, we just won't use it. Not a big deal. Let's try it, or no. It can go either way. Awesome. Do we have any other questions that are on the chat that I missed?
Been trying to keep up with the questions. If I missed any, because we're getting close to the hour here, if I missed your question out in chat, please put it back out there again, and I'll pass it on. but I think I got most of them.
I like the
And
idea of calling yourself an available light photographer. That's a good way to put it.
okay,
Using
here's one.
whatever light.
Do you do any advertising? And if or you do or do not, how do you find your clients, new clients?
I don't do any advertising. Don't
No.
spend any there. I'm not against it or anything. I just haven't done it, and I've been lucky to get the business that I need without it. But like I was saying, I'm lucky that I started at a really good time. I started like a year or two before the rest of the world decided to buy their SLR and be a photographer. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I'm happy that I think it's great, but I'm really lucky that when it was also when Facebook just started and Facebook was really, really huge and booming. And so just putting my pictures on there at the very, very beginning and tagging my friends when everyone was crazy about it got me a lot of followers early on then. So that's something that was huge for me. And that's it, just word of mouth from friends and from Facebook.
How many sessions might take a month?
It depends on the month. Some months I just get lazy and I just say no a lot. And some months I take on a lot more. So it just, I don't know, it just really depends. It could go anywhere. I could have 2 sessions in a month, or I could have 42 sessions in a month, just depending.
42, wow.
Yeah. I try not to do more than 4 or 5 weddings a month because they just kill me if I do more than that. And I'm a mom too, and I don't want to be away from my family all the time.
Sure.
So yeah, it depends.
You mentioned the 70-200 earlier. Is that your favorite lens, or do you have another lens that is your favorite lens?
No, that's my favorite lens.
It's mine too.
Yeah. The beauty.
Yep. All right. I think we're caught up on the questions. Kathleen, I'm getting some feedback from somebody. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a few closing things, and if we have any questions come up, we can go back to those. But I want to remind everybody that this is the end of our fall season. We're going to take 2 weeks off. We won't be back until, I guess I should have had that date pulled up, but sometime in December, first week in December, Kathleen? When is that? Taking the next 2 weeks off, and if I can delay here long enough, I'll find out what that date is.
I think it's the first week in December. I'm pulling it up too.
Yeah, we'll be back then. This gives us a chance in case, I don't know if Kathleen or Tim are traveling. I have a bunch of people coming, but it gives us all a little bit of time to the 4th. It gives us all a little bit of time. So we have a guest scheduled for the 4th. I am working on the guests for the 11th, and we'll see about that. We'll be announcing those, and they're on our on our forum and our page, the jpeg2RAW website, I should say. We have the giveaway that we need to do here on the Expo Disc. I've got to figure out how we're going to handle that. What you got to do, the general thing of liking the page and all that kind of stuff will be, one of the things, of course. But the goal of these a lot of times is to attract new listeners to the show, so that people like people who can come and see our very talented guests that we have, and the majority of people don't make the live show. The majority of people see it afterwards, but we want to continue to grow the show and get as many people as we can. So I'm thinking about different ways to do that. With that, we buy these gifts by using the Amazon link on our website. So if you go to the website, click on the Amazon link, 100% of the funds that we get from that go back into buying these gifts and doing that. So, and we vote in a group, in the Facebook group, on what the next gift is going to be. So the group voted for this versus the Spider 4 calibrator for color monitor calibrator, whatever it was. And as soon as we get that one,
white balance your images.
Yeah.
I just set the temperature in Kelvin.
Awesome.
That's basically what I do. Is I generally shoot it in Kelvin too, and just so I can get a consistent look. But the holidays coming up. We have Black Friday coming up and all that kind of stuff. If you're going to be buying anything on Amazon, it's no extra cost to you. No, only thing you got to do is go to our website, click on that link. It'll take you to Amazon. Then buy whatever you want. It doesn't have to be related to anything in photography. You can buy, shoes, clothes, a hat, CDs, whatever you want to buy. the show will get a little bit of credit, and then we'll use that to give away, you know, other gifts. And somebody out in chat is asking, what is Kelvin? If you look in the back of your camera, or you look at your white balance, you know, there's auto, there's sunlight, there's all there, depending on what camera you have, there's all these different things. There's one of them that is Kelvin, where you can set a number. It has a K. You know, a lot of times I will use 5600, and it's you know, decent light for outside, and then you might have to tweak it if you're shooting raw. The white balance to some degree doesn't matter. I like to get it somewhat close, even though I'm shooting raw, so that the back of the camera looks normal. I can't stand seeing, you know, a blue image or a red image on the back of my camera and just knowing I can change it later. I still want it to be close.
Yeah, me too. It says, Chris says, do you start at a certain value? And there are Kelvin temperature scales that you can look up online, and it gives you an idea of, you know, for shady images, start about here, for sunny images, start about here, and you kind of just get to know those numbers, and then when you're using them, you'll feel what works for you, especially if you're going back to the same locations during the same times of day. I know that I've come to know that if I'm going down to West Bank at the beach at this time of day, then my temperature is probably going to be around this, and it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, when I was shooting basketball in gyms, you know, after I shot the first game in that gym and went home and edited, I knew what white balance was about right. And so every time I went back to that gym to shoot, I would set it at that white balance. And it may not have been perfect, but it was close enough.
Yeah.
Now, Scott says he goes 6450. That is a little warmer than what I generally shoot. I'm generally right around 5600. But, you know, Scott doesn't have a calibrated monitor, so all his images are off on the color anyway.
Slam.
That's an inside joke.
Now, this is a weird question, because I know that since I've gotten my 5D Mark III, the temperatures are different, and I'm just wondering if they can be different from camera to camera.
Absolutely.
I think so. That's why I think that Scott might feel more comfortable sitting around 6450, and you're more comfortable sitting around 5600. I even think that two people sitting in the same stadium or wherever shooting two different cameras would probably feel better at different temperatures.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, you know, maybe Scott can answer. I wonder if he starts at 6450, but of course then he adjusts in post. And he says even between his two Nikons, his D3S and his D4, and I'm sure this is on the Canon side too for you two guys, that the temperature is slightly off.
Yeah, it's way different from my Mark III to my Mark II. That's been the one thing that I will say is a learning curve for me, is getting reacquainted with what temperatures I like, because I was using the Expo disc pretty much exclusively with my Mark II. It is not working on the Mark III at all. So I'm learning Kelvin, and it's just different. It's just different. One's not better than the other. It's just different.
Now,
I did like the fact with the Expo disc, I didn't have to think about it. I just set it and went with it. It was great. And then now I have to constantly be like, okay, where's your temperature?
One of the things I noticed. One of the things I noticed shooting swimming this weekend, because I do bring my D2X still, and I take some of the wide angles with it, is that my D2X, actually the colors start to fall apart a little bit above ISO 800. It doesn't hold the color as well, where the D700 held the colors great, even all the way up to ISO 6400. So not just a noise thing, but the color started to fall apart once I started getting too high in ISO in that D2X. So it didn't really matter what kind of, you know, it just didn't hold together very well. And I love editing those. I almost feel like I'm cheating editing those D700s. They need so little adjustment to them afterwards.
Yeah, it's nice.
This is getting too easy.
Well, you know, I feel confident with the Kelvin outdoors. When I'm doing a newborn inside, that's when I'm sitting there second guessing, and I wish that the Expo disc would still work for me.
So, you know, I showed you that long list of all the things I go through. You couldn't read them, of course, but it's in It's in the forums on our jpeg2RAW site on the steps I go through. One of them is once I get to the gym, because almost every gym, this is for swimming, has indoor crappy lighting and weird outside, weird windows to let light come through so that you can have hugely different exposures even in the pool. At one end, you're at, ISO 200 and a 1/4000 shutter speed, and at the other end, you're at ISO 6400 and 1/200 of a shutter speed. It's just crazy, differences there. But one of the things I do for the white balance is I try and find some kind of middle ground in a light, and I take my white balance with a gray card there so that I know it's going to be off in both places for that middle ground, but at least I'm getting it somewhat close. And I just have to edit them after. I have to edit them afterwards.
Yeah. I think maybe for my newborn sessions, I'm going to pull my gray card back out and give that a shot. I just like to be able to take some sort of a reading with newborns, because if their skin's off, it ruins the entire session. There's like no artistic, this is my opinion, but baby skin should look like baby skin. It shouldn't look pale white or too rosy pink, and certainly not yellow or blue. And so it needs to look perfect, or it just looks like the baby's ill.
I tried to get the Expo Disc people to come on the show, and I think we're on like email number 17, and those people, I hate working with those companies because they take forever. And then finally, when you're on email number 12, they go, "Oh, you really need to be talking to Greg. Let me send you over to Greg."
Yeah.
Like, now I got to start all over again with Greg.
Yeah, I contacted Expo Disc about the Mark II versus the Mark III issue, and they didn't really have a fix for it. They just said that I just needed to look at my manual and made sure that I had my settings correct, and so that wasn't very helpful.
Well, I don't want to cut.
But I'm looking into it.
I don't want to cut our guest out because we're kind of ignoring her now. But I do want to thank you for coming out and helping us close out the fall season. I love your images, and while we've been talking and displaying here and displaying some other images, I also have had your website up, so I'm looking at some different images than what we were playing, and just absolutely fantastic. I love the lighting.
Yeah, Camilla, you're so talented. It's what's amazing to me is that your journey it's all just from inside of you, which I think is great. You're so very talented and very inspirational. So we were very honored to have you on tonight. So thank you.
And in just a minute, I will give both of y'all a secret I found out about Facebook that will help you with your Facebook post on your page.
Okay.
I can't reveal in public. So that's a little teaser to everybody else out there. Ha 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 ha.
Kathleen, I didn't get to say thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. That is so nice.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, well, let's go ahead and end the show. We thank you guys for coming out. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Remember, we're not here next week or the week after. And we wish Tim well as he's at a wake tonight for a friend of his. He has not had a good month here with everything that's been going on with him and the storm that hit up there. But we'll see him again in 2 weeks. And remember, come out and join us in the Facebook group. And we will, even though we're off, we'll still be in there. And the show, if you had to leave early, then you're not listening to me now, but we'll have this out here in a few days. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.